New Mexico Crime Files, a deep dive into the archives, shocking and notorious cases, the arrests and what led to them, and what happened to the suspect. Here are your hosts, Dean Staley and Jessica Garate.
Welcome to another episode of New Mexico Crime Files. I am KRQE's Dean Staley, along with my co-anchor, Jessica Garate. And Jess, we are covering one of the probably most high-profile, most interesting crimes that we've had in the Metro in decades. And it has a lot of crazy twists and turns.
It really does. And when you say the name Justin Hansen, you'd be hard-pressed not to find someone in the city that hasn't heard that name if you've lived here for a while. This was just one. There's a lot of twists and turns, as you mentioned, and just the way that it was finally solved was really fascinating. And so we've been digging into that and just looking at how this whole case unraveled. And a long time went by, and for so long, most people thought that this was going to go unsolved.
Yeah, and for those who haven't seen some of our previous episodes, this is about a 17-year-old high school senior, Brittani Marcell, a senior at Cibola High School. This is back on September 11th of 2008. She's, by all accounts, sort of a normal, happy senior in high school, and she goes home to have lunch with her mother, which, how more of a normal, you think, wow, what a good kid, right? Goes home from high school for lunch to have lunch with her mother, gets attacked in her home by an unknown assailant who beats her severely with a shovel. And the only way that her life is actually saved is that her mother comes home just at the right time, just accidentally, and scares off the intruder, who for a moment brandishes a knife, and you know, it looked like maybe he was going to go after her for a moment. He ends up fleeing through a window, breaking the window, leaves a drop of blood, so that's a crucial part of this whole story. But so a shocking crime in the sense that someone attacked in their home, and like this most innocent person, right? And then also no leads. Like this is not a family that lives on I-25 where you think sort of random people might come by and hurt somebody. This is a very quiet suburb in Albuquerque.
And it was almost a decade before this whole case was put to rest as far as getting justice and finding out who did it. And in our earlier episodes, we did explain how it was through hypnosis that there finally was a break in this case. And we're going to go into that a little bit more later on in this episode on exactly how that came about and the technology that they used to help Brittani name her attacker. But finally, you know, we looked at all the past cases, DNA match. We find Justin Hansen. He's living a normal life for the past decade, has children. His neighbors are like, we would have never saw this coming. And then finally, the day in court that the Marcell family has been waiting for so long. This was in April of 2018. And they had waited for this, and they're in the courtroom, and you just have these high emotions because they're finally going to face Brittani's attacker.
Yes, and this is our reporter, Brittani Bade, about the Brittani Marcell family finally getting some relief in court.
What kind of monster are you? What kind of soulless human are you?
During one of the last times they'll have to see their sister's attacker.
What gets me is looking at him and thinking, you lived under the radar for 10 years and had no sense of guilt, no sense of consciousness.
The Marcell family felt relief.
We can smile about this.
Yeah, and she will smile. I think she gets her smile back, you know.
Relief that the man who caused their sister, Brittani Marcell, so much pain is finally being held responsible.
And that goes a long way to say that I did this. I took the shovel and I beat your sister.
Nearly 10 years ago, Justin Hansen ambushed the then 17-year-old Cibola High School student when she came home. The attack put Marcell in a coma for weeks, and when she woke, she had no memory of who tried to kill her until October 2016. Then she remembered the name Justin Hansen, a man who used to visit her at her Cottonwood Mall job. In July 2017, investigators matched Hansen's DNA from a McDonald's cup to a single drop of blood found at the crime scene and arrested him.
My question is why? And why did he do it? That's what I want to ask him.
Today in court, Hansen pled no contest to attempted murder and aggravated burglary.
Do you understand that, Mr. Hansen?
Yes, Your Honor.
The state agreed to drop 4 of the 6 charges Hansen faced, including kidnapping, which carries the heftiest sentence.
I think we'd like to see more, but given the laws here, I mean, we would push for the full 18.
The Marcells hope Hansen is put away for as long as possible, 18 years, and are grateful that after 10 years they finally saw a shred of humanity and the man they call a monster.
That's when I got kind of broken up, is because you're saying you did this. Thank you.
So there you hear the siblings of Brittani Marcell, who was brutally attacked in her own home, spent not just months, but years. I mean, she spent months recovering in a coma from the attack. Originally, she lost her eyesight and her hearing on one side of her body. She had to learn how to talk and walk and swallow and all that. And numerous surgeries over the years, not to mention the psychological damage done by not feeling safe anywhere. Finally, her sisters, who the wonderful people, they're so protective of their sister. You can feel the love they have for Brittani, saying, we finally got this guy to say he did it, right? And he didn't, it wasn't the best admission. It wasn't one of those absolute, absolutely I did this. It was, somewhere in the middle, but he admits legally to responsibility for this, right? And you could feel the relief.
Absolutely. And one thing that always stood out to me about this case too was that she had these older sisters that were so well-spoken, who were always fighting for her when she couldn't. And that they just really did everything they possibly could to make sure justice was served. And they were so always willing to talk because they were so angry about what had happened to their little sister. They wanted justice. And they were just really great in just getting that voice out for her.
And they were not for a minute going to let this crime go unpunished or let it be forgotten,
Absolutely,
which was really
yes.
wonderful to see that sort of sibling love.
Well, one of the things that really just bothered me also about this case was that the state agrees to drop 4 of the 6 charges. Mm-hmm. And this is one they were afraid to take it to the jury. They were worried if, they did take it. And I just didn't see that one. This is, any jury seeing this and he was put there by DNA, he had to have been there, which is what the judge is saying. Mm-hmm. The judge in this is saying, it's Cindy Leos, and she's saying, you were there. There's only one, this completely connects you to it. And so for them to drop 4 of the 6, and especially kidnapping, which, was one of carries the heftiest fines as we reported in that story, that one made me question a little bit about how this was handled.
So the next part of the story that we're going to get to centers on the question of house arrest and what does it mean to be on house arrest. So Justin Hansen at one point in this process is on house arrest, and you would think that would mean he's in his home, not allowed to leave except for maybe medical, something like that. Turns out that's not true.
No. And not only is it not true, what he was doing was really upsetting to the community, and especially Brittani Marcell's sister, who runs into him. So we're going to have that part of the story. Dean, so, this has been a bit of controversy of letting people out on house arrest. So Justin Hansen, he changes his plea to no contest. He's waiting sentencing, and they put him on house arrest. This is Judge Charles Brown puts him on house arrest. Mm-hmm. And so that means, usually when you're stuck at your house, unless you've got a job or, in this case, the judge was like, well, if you need to get groceries for your kids, he has 3 kids at home, and, if he needed to do any of that kind of stuff, but you're pretty limited, I thought.
Yeah.
Until we heard this story.
Yeah, and how would you feel if someone had brutally attacked a family member and they finally got caught and they were in jail and then they were put on house arrest while the court case was working its way through the system, and you were at an Albuquerque Isotopes baseball game and you saw them hanging out with their girlfriend? That's what happened. This is astounding.
And this is really astounding.
Yeah. So take a look at this story. This is Madeline Schmidt reporting.
When Jennifer Marcell saw her sister's attacker enjoying America's pastime, she couldn't believe her eyes. The Marcell family and the district attorney's office firmly believe that in July of last year, when Judge Charles Brown set Justin Hansen's conditions of release, it essentially meant house arrest.
I think the spirit of the law was house arrest. And I think just because it's written down in plain language that doesn't state that, it goes against the original intent.
Meaning a fun outing like this was off the table. But we learned in court today the documentation of those conditions of release isn't very clear. So since then, the Pretrial Services Division has been approving his request to do things like see the isotopes or go out to eat, even just grocery shop. And that doesn't sit well with the Marcell family, Brittani included, although she wasn't here today.
When he's allowed to do everyday things, that's frustrating because
Brittani can't do a lot of that stuff. So that's the slap in the face, I think, to Brittani, but our family too.
Hansen's case later moved to Judge Cindy Leos' courtroom.
But sometimes the written order doesn't really capture everything that was discussed in court or ordered.
Now, Judge Leos says she'll review the audio and transcripts from Judge Brown in July 2017 to clarify his order. But the Marcell family says this incident raises bigger concerns beyond their still recovering sister.
It just makes me wonder what other violent criminals are attending that we don't know about or sitting next to us at games or checking out behind us at the grocery store.
So there you have an example of, and this is incredible, where sometimes it takes a high-profile crime and reporters following this closely, as we did, to show a flaw in the system that is just, I think, had everyone in this community just drop-jawed that something like this could happen.
It really did, and then not only that, like the sister runs into him and records him. And she's so angry, and so she gives it to us, and that's how we were able to show the story and just go to the courts and say, hey, what he's waiting for sentencing. What is he doing out? And not only that, he's dating. Like, who is dating this guy right now?
Yeah.
You're about to go away, guy.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just, the whole thing was just really shocking that he's out hanging out at Isotopes. Once again, he'd already lived his life for 10 years, not taking any responsibility for this crime. They finally get him. He's waiting for sentencing, and he's out again, just living a normal life.
And you and I, as longtime reporters, we've been reporting for decades, have had this experience where you find something, and this is part of what I love about the job, right, is people think things work a certain way, and then something like this happens, and you say, wait a second, this doesn't work the way we thought. The system isn't functioning the way most people thought it was functioning. And this isn't one of those cases where the judge says, I can't believe this is wrong, that people broke the law. No, the judge is saying, well, I don't think the order was maybe clear enough. Like even when it's put in front of the court is like, well, yeah, we probably need to button this up. Like it just wasn't clear. And like nobody wrote the statute that house arrest means stay in your house.
Yeah.
Like there's some weird, and so for lay people, right, working people, you do your job, you pay your taxes, you don't break the law, to find out that simple things like this aren't being followed, I think was shocking for everybody.
It really was. Like, how did we miss this?
Yeah.
And you would think that if it wasn't that unclear, like we would have more of this, but how this kid got away with this stuff during that time was really just shocking to me. Now, he did have someone that he had to be a court-approved monitor following him, making sure that, he was following all the rules and wasn't going somewhere he shouldn't. But then what was the places he shouldn't?
And that was the part that was shocking to me. If you follow our reporting from this time, you say, wait a second, he had to say, hey, I'm going to the Isotopes tonight, because he didn't sneak off. I mean, that's the interesting thing. He's on an ankle monitor. He's not sneaking off to do this. He's getting permission to go do these things. And the person at pretrial services is like, yeah, okay, have fun. Like, get some popcorn. Like, what do we? Just mind blowing. Absolutely mind blowing.
Again, I love the big sisters coming in to the rescue, saying what is going on and calling attention to this.
They're the heroes of this story.
They really are.
Over and over again.
This is not the intent of the law.
Yeah.
And this is just isn't fair. Now, the judge did allow Hansen to take care of just everyday necessities, like getting groceries and things like that, haircuts that he needed to do, and even letting him take his kids to summer camp. But again, he had to be accompanied by a court-appointed person that they approved of. So next, in this case, is sentencing.
This is the culmination. This is the big moment, right? A horrific crime, got away with it for almost 10 years. Finally, the evidence points to him. We finally get an admission of sorts. How much time is this guy going to do?
And we'll be right back with that part of the story. Okay, welcome back, everybody. This is the big day. This is punishment day for Justin Hansen.
Right, and these are the moments especially after following this for so long as reporters and anchors and following this, everyone wants to know what Justin Hansen is going to say to the judge, what the judge is going to sentence him to, what the reactions will be from other people in the court. And of course, you get the family as well of the criminal, of Justin Hansen in this case, getting to speak on his behalf. So this is a really loaded moment.
And just to see what he's going to end up getting. Will he get the max? What does the judge think of this whole case? And we get all of that from this story. This is Marissa Lucero reporting.
I am going to impose the full 18 years in the Department of Corrections.
Sentenced to the maximum, Justin Hansen will spend 18 years behind bars for a crime he committed nearly 10 years ago.
This is a absolutely tragic, heart-wrenching case.
Today in court, prosecutors painted a picture of what happened to the then 17-year-old Brittani Marcell when she got home from school the afternoon of September 11, 2008, saying she was surprised by Hansen, attacked, then beaten with a shovel. In April, Hansen pled no contest to one charge of attempted murder and burglary. Today, without owning up to the crime, he apologized to the Marcell family.
For everything they've been through.
Hansen's parents also spoke to the judge, still insisting their son's innocent and a good man.
I agree with them 100% that this is a monster. What I don't agree with was not Justin.
My son Justin has always been kind and compassionate to people of all ages. He's never shown any violent tendencies in all of his 34 years.
His mother even played an audio recording in court of one of Hansen's daughters singing to him.
You'll always forever be Daddy's little girl. I want you to know.
But one of Hansen's former friends says he saw the warning signs when they were younger, even referred to Hansen as a monster.
It's not a matter of if with him, it's a matter of when. And this happens to just be one of those situations he actually got caught on. Who knows if he's done this in the past or will do it again.
In the end, Judge Cindy Leos told Hansen, although she felt for the impact this would have on his kids, his DNA was found at the crime scene, and that was undisputable.
And that was the bulk of their case against Mr. Hansen. And that droplet of blood is pretty profound for me. It wouldn't be there unless Mr. Hansen was there.
Jess, so much to unpack here. A couple of things. The family, this is astounding. The family is still defending their son. The criminal, Justin Hansen's mother and father, still defending him, saying never any violence. When he actually was investigated for domestic violence, of his pregnant wife at the time, also attempted rape, or was it? I think it was a rape of a girlfriend previous to that. That didn't come to charges, but they knew of these cases. You have one of his close friends saying, I've known him from a long time. This guy's a monster, and no one else sees it. And he actually talks specifically, I'm not sure if it was in this story or later, about Hansen stealing a car and doing different, setting his own car on fire. I mean, he talks specifically about things that Justin Hansen had done. So it is astounding to me that the parents in this case, for all of the love of a son, can be so deluded and not see the truth of what their son is about.
And we have some more stories coming about where we start to see that, they did have an inkling of what was going on, and more than an inkling, because there had been some different situations involving his mother and things like that. That comes a little bit later.
That she's being dishonest when she's saying that he's the perfect child, and then you find out early. Okay, well didn't he use your credit card to rent a truck to go steal motorcycles, and you found out? I mean, ridiculous.
Just all of that.
Yeah.
And then, I love this about the judge. She's like, she told Hansen that day that, his tears had nothing to do with this crime, and that the only reason he was crying was that he regretted what he did and the impact that it was going to have on him, that there was no remorse for the actual victim or what he did. Yeah. And so she really scolded him, and I give it to her for saying that and just really saying, like, I'm not believing those tears.
One of my pet peeves, Jess, I know you love my pet peeves, is when someone takes responsibility, in quotes, for what they've done, but they really don't. And in this case, I'm sorry for everything they've been through, instead of saying everything I did to them. Yes. And I wish every now and then a judge would just stop a defendant and say, I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Go rewrite your statement and put yourself in there. Let's take some accountability in your statements. Not, I'm sorry that someone got hurt because of some actions. Like, no, I'm sorry that I hurt somebody, right?
And he kept just denying it. And then what really makes him mad to this day is he's just never said why he did it. We have no idea. We just know that he'd go and visit. They weren't dating. He'd go and visit her while she worked at the mall. And to this day, she can't remember what happened, or if she rejected him or something, whatever it led up for him to go and do something so horrific to her. We don't know.
I also think there's something deeply troubled about Justin Hansen. Of course there is, to have committed this sort of crime. But the fact that, and his parents talked about this, and his wife previously talked about this. Oh, he's so good with our children. He loves our children. He's such a good father. His parents are echoing the same sentiments. We've known him his whole life, and he's never had any inkling of being mean, or you should see how good he is to his kids. But it's absolutely true that serial killers who do horrific things to human beings, not just serial, some people torture and kill their victims, and they still tuck their kids in at night. I mean, we've learned this about the BTK killer, right? We've learned this, that live these double lives. So there's this absolute ability on the part of these monsters to live dual lives. There's a duality there. So I think it's astounding when people say, well, on the face of it, I mean, we do stories all the time about teachers who get caught molesting children, and everyone says, what? I had no idea. Well, of course you had no idea. People do this. They live separate lives, and they don't show that part of themselves. So that's frustrating to me to hear someone say, oh, it's not possible. I mean, acknowledge that they have done other things that were positive, but to act like that means this other thing is not possible is just, is silly.
And this is just one where, you walked out of that courtroom thinking like he still wasn't taking any responsibility for what had happened. And it was just a tough one to really think about. And he was sentenced to the 18 years in prison. The DA says with good time, he could be out in half of that. So the Marcell family still not quite happy. They wanted to see, obviously, a much tougher sentence, a much longer sentence. Yeah. Again, we discussed this before, that there was a plea in this. Really shocked me. That's how this unfolded. Mm-hmm. Doesn't end here, though.
No. There's more to this story.
In this next episode, there's so many other twists and turns. First, we're going to take a deep dive into looking at how later on, after this case had already been adjudicated, we took a look at how they hypnotized Brittany and how they got to that point. It took years still, too, to get the name. So it's really fascinating. We got a really good in-depth look at that. We get reaction. And then we start learning more about Mr. Hansen and all the things and that he had been accused of before this happened, and maybe some really big warning signs, including interviewing the mother of his first child.
Yeah. And we've alluded to some of those things, but an incredible next episode coming up.